2020 was an interesting year for video games. What started as a transition year filled with ports, remakes, and the very last of a generation ended with countless delays, physical sales tanking, Game of the Year, The Last of Us 2, and a brand new console gen with no games. Even Nintendo took it easy this year and decided to make their big holiday seller the Chase Your Dog Around Your Tiny Apartment Simulator 2020. But what didn't take a break were the dregs. Bad video games came out swinging just like any old year, but the disappointments were just as common. Starting right out of the gate in January with Warcraft 3 Reforged, an awfully uninspired remake of an absolute classic that's lacking advertised features, completely replaced the original in Battle.net, and has a new fancy TOS that states that any custom-made games now belong to Blue. Sounds like they're still mad about Dota 2. And who could forget whatever the Cooking Mama scandal was about? Was it mining crypto? Was it IP fraud? Was it just bad? I don't know, but I did buy a copy of the original print thinking that was gonna be it and that this would be my golden ticket to $1 million. Now I just have garbage. Some games in 2020 just didn't hit, and despite a plethora of hype now exist as free-to-play downloads for somebody. Anyone remember Ninjala? Anyone? So today we're gonna take a look at some of the worst and most disappointing video games of 2020. And no, the last gen version of Cyberpunk 2077 isn't here. It potentially really should be, but I don't wanna buy a full price game just to see my ween clip through my shorts. That's the kind of game you just go to the front page of Steam for. So yo, it's Austin, and today we're gonna be talking about some garbage with the worst and most disappointing video games of 2020. And I know it's February in 2021. I messed up. Let's get it started with Tamarind. I love browsing game stores, especially digital ones. Lots of people enjoy having things curated to them, but given the opportunity, I'll go game by game, watch every trailer, and just see what in the world's being offered on whatever digi-shop I can. The Switch easily has the most cursed of the modern consoles, but occasionally something slides on a PlayStation Network that impresses. This here is Tamarind. Looks okay, right? A tamarind's a type of Central American monkey, generally born as a twin. They're really small, they're only like a foot tall, and they're cute, and yeah, they'd be great for a video game mascot, even if he's got those massive Pixar eyes. Hey, look, it's like a run-of-the-mill platformer. Oh no. Bugs? Shooting bugs? Open doors? Seem familiar? So Tamarind is made by Chameleon Games, who have a couple of X-Rare devs on their team. And I think that's pretty obvious, considering this game literally looks and plays like Jet Force Gemini. But why anyone would be inspired by Jet Force Gemini, one of Rare's most infamous games from that era, the one with an awful control scheme and concept, is beyond me. And while Tamarind doesn't make you wait 100 years between unskippable cutscenes, it does make you rescue blue birds who can potentially be killed. Exactly the same as tribals. Hey buddy, I know we just rescued you and your friend. Actually, no, your friend died, he got shot. But let's put you safe and sound next to my house that they just attacked and is still actively on fire. We good? Look, I already don't like Jet Force, so when Tamarind comes in with its concept, I'm already out. But then you start actually playing the thing, and it gets worse somehow. The game divides itself between two separate parts, gun levels and platforming levels. There's no mix between the two, and the only way to switch between the two styles is to talk to this hedgehog. Damn it. Tamarind just feels bad. The best part of Gemini was when you would blow up the ants and there'd be huge explosions with ant goo going all over the place, but Tamarind is really uninspired and even mishmashy. You can tell it's running on the Unreal Engine because it does look decent in spots, but there's no good overall aesthetic going on. These cartoony ants that literally look like Jet Force characters are in like the most generic looking factory and not a cool spaceship or base like they'd be in a normal Rareware game. The most rare it gets is having, for some strange reason, David Wise on the soundtrack. So it sounds like a game from that era, but I mean, even Yooka-Laylee this is not. How at the end of the day, standard third-person shooter and platformer couldn't get support for mouse and keyboard is beyond me, especially when you're paying $40 for it. Tamarind has an identity crisis and it could have been a decent game, but you know, it wanted to be a mix of Conker's Bad Fur Day and Jet Force without any personality. Truly a winning combination. Anyway, let's get started with a game that had literally zero hope the second it was announced, Fast and the Furious Crossroads. When this was shown off at the VGAs in 2019 as the final big reveal, I think people had some hope. I mean, it was being developed by Slightly Mad Studios, the people who brought us Project Cars. It's no Forza Horizon, but it's decent enough. And while Vid and Michelle left us with the
gamers,
to Ken Fighter games or Street Gamer,
we have been gamers,
I think there was a part of me that couldn't wait. I mean, not for anything good. And well, we have it. Fast and the Furious Crossroads with its whopping 35 on Metacritic. A game that's just really, really boring.
What are we doing, V?
Come on down to Fast and the Furious Land where we sell cars able to bounce back from any sudden impacts. Too aerodynamic? No problem. Need to pull off a 360 no-scope? We got your back. But if you're looking for a fun car combat and racing game, then you might want to go pick up Split Second again. Crossroads is so disappointing because it commits the worst possible cardinal sin that anything with the Fast and Furious brand name can be, and it's bland, boring, it's a snoozer. Every single mission is a different take on the follow the GPS formula. Despite being in control of a vehicle in an open city, you can only go one way. Sure, we actually have Vinny Vin and Michelle Tacan Rodriguez in the game, but we aren't following them a majority of the time. We got the new gen, clearly the best gen. I'm running this on a PlayStation 5, but for some reason, this game looks visually like a middle era Xbox 360 game. Like, Red Dead Redemption 1 looks better than this. And that game didn't do this anytime the Popo were around. Can you see anything? I sure can't. If a video game's ever needed an epileptic seizure warning before it started, here it is. Fast has a wild amount of potential as a video game, and they always end up coming in extremely flaccid. How the game where you can hack vehicles, where you get a hook shot able to tear trains apart, and spinners able to shred tank treads ends up boring is something that sounds like fiction. But it happened. Thanks, Vin. Speaking of games with a ton of potential, let's talk about the time an indie developer hit up a bunch of other indie developers and made a Smash clone. A bad one. Bounty Battle. I don't really enjoy picking on indies, but holy crap, Bounty Battle might be one of the worst things I've played in a hot minute. Hell, the Switch version is the lowest rated video game on Metacritic for 2020. But why? Well, it would be nice to show you guys if the game wouldn't freeze in the middle of character select 2 times in a row. Okay, here we go.
You most wanted.
Oh, that's why. Bounty Battle is shit. Like, it has been a while since I played a modern game that felt this bad. It's like a combination of Smash and PlayStation All-Stars in the sense that you have stocks, but also build up a gauge to do a big attack. That meter being cash to buy a thing that'll help you out. You get a bounty making you worth more cash to other players, but it doesn't seem to reliably do it to the right person, considering the worst players always got it in my group. Matches go on and have this round table jankiness for a while. Well, that is unless you play in a map with the sides exposed, in which case just pick Axiom Verge Man and run them off the cliff. You just drop down the second you walk off the sides of the platform. Good luck getting back up. You're not going to. Considering you can find much higher quality Smash clones on Newgrounds to play in Flash, Bounty Battle is a shit show. And don't let it tell you otherwise. And it proved it by hard crashing on me before I could quit. Sick. Juan Guacamole and Flint Hook deserve better. Next. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of these annual videos, the Jank Anime Piece of Crap Game Award. It's like a separate category on its own. So which 2 games are gonna be joining these precious ranks alongside Gun Gun Pixies and Drive Girls, 2 classics? First up, by the developer of last year's winner, Idea Factory, Arc of Alchemist. Idea Factory make video games? To me, at least, they seem to come off as the Japanese version of Game Mill Entertainment, who, by the way, we'll get back to in a bit. But Idea Factory throw out all of these games and ideas, some of which could have also been great candidates for this award, like Azure Lane Crosswave. But when I saw Arc of Alchemist drop for $30 on digital storefronts, and then within 2 months drop to $7, I knew something was up. I actually saw this and was intrigued. The character design's cute, the OP's pretty cool. I love post-apocalyptic settings in general. What could go wrong? Well, I hope you like tutorials because Arc has about 50 of them before you're even close to done with the first area. Seriously, I feel like anytime I take 2 steps, the game's like, tips. You need tips? We got tips. The concept is very much that of your standard post-apocalyptic shindig where humanity's on its last rope and the great ancient machines were bad and now anime girls are banding together to find out what happened. All while gloriously Danganronpa A-posing. Yo girl, close your arms. Arc might have been a decent PSP game, but I'm playing this on the PlayStation 5 and it feels real dated. The mechanics are very stiff. Combat has very little flow to it. You're supposed to be rebuilding a desert base, but there's hardly anything you can be doing with it. Like, Arc wants to be Dark Cloud with its location-based building, but it doesn't hold a candle. Add up the fact that it runs sluggishly with awful frame rate even on PlayStation, and we've got ourselves a recipe for skip it. Please, for the love of God, skip it. I think Arc of Alchemist could have had more going for it with a bit more time, but Idea Factory gotta do what Idea Factory do. But in 2020, Arc is sharing this award with a game that I actually did brave the outside world for. Kanagawa Jet Girls. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I don't partake in le garbage every now and then. I think anyone can look at something like Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash and be like, what is wrong with you? I'm gonna call the cops. But you don't know you're missing some pretty decent third-person shooting. So when Kanagawa Jet Girls was announced, I was actually pretty excited for it. 2 reasons: anime girls and wave race. Anyone who says they don't like wave race is wrong, and if you're tossing that together with fun anime girls, a sleek modern interface, and the 2-person system of Mario Kart Double Dash with the side of shooty McSquirt guns, you're pretty much guaranteed my money. But maybe they should have played a racing game before trying. So Kanagawa is one of those multimedia projects like any number of idol girl projects, so this is technically a licensed game. You've got a bunch of characters, all girls, with various, I don't know if I want to say personalities, but assets? However, unlike other games made by the same peeps, Kanagawa is only rated T for teens. Despite the fact that you can literally do this, sex is not listed anywhere on the box. This was Honey Parade and Marvelous's attempt to go serious and rely less on the first-person Baja blasting. Sure, you still got things like this, and especially this, but the actual story and characters in Kanagawa are quite wholesome. It's a sports anime about girls wanting to be the best jetter. They're a bunch of teams of 2, and they're gonna do their best to try and realize their dreams. Standard anime stuff. It's not like Senran where you open up a character's bio and see harassment as a hobby, but unfortunately that game plays way better than this one does. Kanagawa feels like you barely have any control over what's happening. There's a long tutorial showing the ropes of jetting, all with several tanks in the frame rate, but the game itself is this weirdly stiff and awkward racing game. Turning takes ages, even though my current setup has a high turning stat. That and the shooting ends up being not very important because unless you're trying to do the side missions, you'll probably be so far ahead it won't even matter. Kanagawa is not the worst thing ever, but it's here because of how fun some of the previous games ended up being despite the sexual themes. Even though it looks like it should be a blast, you're mostly just driving forward and waiting for a turn, anything to happen. But hey, at least they realized that this is a game for teenagers. You know, normally I try to minimize the amount of shovelware I put in these videos, but year 4 of the Nintendo Switch was a time. It had so much garbage everywhere. You go to a store, if you went into a store, it was all crap. So we're gonna be doing a little bit of a Nintendo Switch shovelware power hour. It's like, say more like 3 minutes, but still. Fort Boyard, escape game. Fort Boyard. What in the world is Fort Boyard? Well, it's a new video game, but before that it was a mid-90s and early 2000s reality game show. It's got a bit of Legends of the Hidden Temple, a bit of Nick Guts, and a whole lot of American Gladiators in it. You gotta get keys to escape this massive fortress in the middle of a giant body of water while doing challenges created by some wizard in a tower. Yeah, I'm not joking. This never made its way to American television, but oh boy, I wish it did. So why not, some 30 years later, make a video game about it, starring none other than Michael Vsauce. Ah, yes. Pro tip, go to audition, hard limit, default probably works, should help.
Come on, give it all you've got!
This is one of them shovelware minigame collections where the goal is to get enough keys in order to escape the fort. However, if you go to the escape room and don't escape fast enough, you get stuck and presumably die. There's no way on screen to tell if you're running out of time, but your allies do yell at you, and you'll know.
Get out, get out!
At the end, you escape with some money, or not, and if you do, the wizard's like, damn, I should have made it a bit harder. Really, not much to say here, except it sucks. Interestingly, the publisher, Microids, actually made other Fort Boyard games in the 90s and 2000s. Some of y'all might recognize Microids as the people who made last year's champion, Garfield Kart Furious Racing. Some of y'all might recognize them as the people who made this year's 13 remake. I've been told that this game is one of the worst of the year, but I'm not willing to spend the full amount to test that theory. But you know, sometimes a clip of gameplay says everything. But speaking of champion game developers, let's move on to the channel's best friend, the one, the only. You know, I'm talking about Game Mill Entertainment. Last year, they brought us that American Ninja Warrior video game, which was fantastic. And this year, they could have been in for like 2 or 3 different ones, but I decided to roll with G.I. Joe Operation Blackout. I fall into a weird age group where I'm slightly too old for G.I. Joe. I do, however, love the Finsler film G.I. Joe PSAs.
Mr. Bottom Size Machine, go!
So I think I can approach this brand new G.I. Joe video game with no biases whatsoever. unless you look at the title of this video. G.I. Joe does this thing where it wants to feel like Fortnite. It really wants you to think it's Fortnite. When I'm sitting around playing this and someone walks into my room and accuses me of playing Fortnite, you know they pulled it off. And hey, I don't blame them. Go for the market that makes the money. I'm not really sure if Fortnite kiddos really care about America's movable fighting man, but they do like video game guns and active reload systems. Gears of War, go home. The story is this relatively generic G.I. Joe conflict, but one where Cobra Commander's look and personality resembles Skeletor's more than Cobra. There's a lot of cutscene dialogue of the mission and the plan, and sometimes at the end your character will get bored and talk over it.
The world powers have neither the strength nor the will to interfere with.
This is the Switch version, by the way, because, you know, why not go for the best version of it I can play? The one with the best resolution and definitely no input lag. Yeah, Operation Blackout is a super lackluster, run-of-the-mill third-person shooter, one that actually offers two-player co-op, though that's local only, no online gameplay for Gameville. I can't even imagine how this would play split screen when it's already running like this. This game gets ridiculously difficult because the AI does this thing where they just snap zoom to your location no matter what, so your best bet is to hunker down in a corner and just do this. Some people call this camping. I call this riveting gameplay. G.I. Joe was destined to be Walmart bargain bin fodder, so I can't really complain on that front. But it's hard for me to really understand who this is made for because there's no new cartoon or anything. It's 2020. What kid out there is all about G.I. Joe? Who is this game made for? If we could somehow go all of 2021 without GameMelt putting out something like this or anything of this caliber, then I'll be proud. I'll be proud of you guys. I'll be like, damn, you've grown. We grew together. All you have to do is not put out something like this. And you know, we're gonna talk about this. My universe, my baby. What the f? In 2020, Microids launched a line of games with their new publishing line, Microids Life, My Universe. I feel like this is an attempt to be the modern version of Ubisoft's Imagine line from the 2000s, except I don't sense any Imagine Party babies outclassing any God Hands here. Each of the My Universe games has been developed by a different team, and they all seem pretty terrible. That's 5 different games since July, by the way, but none so powerful and Lovecraftian in essence as My Universe, My Baby. My Baby is a child rearing sim. You pick whether or not you want to be the daddy or mommy, then you, I guess, raise a child. Yo, why is this baby's head cracked? It's cracked on the forehead like some ancient horror skull. Let's take baby for a walk. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling fatherly right now, especially when I walk my son directly into car smog.
It's okay. Try again.
By the way, in case you guys were wondering, yes, many aspects of parenting are covered. You gotta work on their sensory skills, help them stand up, give them a bath, and of course, change the diaper. What? Oh, nope. No, sir. Not going to jail. I'm not doing it. Bye, I'm out. I'm gonna censor this because it's disturbing, but why are we changing Barbie doll babies' poopy diapers? I didn't think I'd ever play a game with first-person ass wiping, but here we are. And by the way, this was rated E for everyone, certified by Nintendo, got the seal of approval, then the ESRB was like, this is okay, this is educational, E for everyone. This got patched multiple times, and the only thing the patch did was add a doctor, mommy, and then I guess swap my child with another one. So that's cool. Who is this game for? Expecting parents? Are they buying this? My universe, my baby. Arrest this man. The WWE video games have been a pretty reliably easy target for worst of the year for several years running now, so I've always kind of veered away from them. So when 2K decided to try something new with WWE Battlegrounds, I was like, okay, it's a new studio, it's a new concept, it looks like it's gonna be closer to the older, more arcadey games. I'm on board, nothing can go wrong, right? Except if you look right here and right here, that's where it goes wrong. Before we get started, yeah, WWE's kind of been the worst this year. From letting tons of talent go to their anti-union and employee rights actions, I think it's safe to say that there's a lot of changes in management that need to be made. Perhaps healthcare is a good start, but on the flip side of things, making quality merchandise for your fans would be another. WWE 2K Battlegrounds should have been a good game. It was looking to be something much closer to the fun All-Stars that came out in 2011, an arcadey fighter with over-exaggerated moves made to look over the top. top. The developer, Saber Interactive, has a pretty good track record, and they're responsible for the good PC ports of the Master Chief Collection. In fact, I would say generally the game is decent. It doesn't have the high highs as something like All-Stars or the old No Mercy games, and overall it's quite a bit more shallow. I think this is because the roster in Battlegrounds is huge by comparison, but it's a totally 6 out of 10 type of game that was patched to be cleaned up a bit from its release, and one that wants to give wrestling fans a bit of fan service. You even get to make your own character, which means that I was of course going to make something cursed and combine every wrestler into one person. It's not very deep, but it's an okay party game. The problem is everything, and I mean everything, is hidden behind an unlock system, all of which support microtransactions. New wrestlers, money. Costumes, money. New stages,
Here comes the money.
why in the world you would have the two superstars on the front of the box, Dwayne and Stone Cold, hidden behind the in-game currency system is a complete debacle to me. Sure, you could unlock them with that currency, but have fun grinding for what is literally front and center. Battlegrounds ends up feeling like a mobile game that shifted development into becoming a full-ass console release due to the 2K series being canned. The way levels are sort of like a flow chart, the way every mission gives you currency, it just feels like they had it ready to go for phones before things changed to the last minute. It doesn't help that when you start playing, your character literally emerges from a loot crate, one that you can customize with microtransactions. Look, I'm all for people grabbing that bag, but this bag doesn't need to be got. WWE has the money and budget to do way better than this, but it feels like shameless milking of its fan base at this point. Go play SmackDown Bring the Pain instead, or better yet, Fire Pro, baby. So, we're at the end of the line. There's one more game I want to talk about, and it's one that's pretty near and dear to me personally. I always include disappointing in these now because there's always something that comes out in the middle of the year that really breaks my heart, and this year, it was pretty bad. For nearly 2 decades, me and tons of other people have been asking for a new, approachable re-release of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and we finally got it, and they totally messed it up. This one stings. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles is one of my favorite GameCube games. Even though it was and is a huge pain in the butt to set up, getting that group of 4 people in the same room hooked up with Game Boy Advance cables, a power splitter for charging, and beanbags for comfort, it came with an undeniably unique and memorable experience. The feeling of 4 people from the same village all setting off together in order to bring Mirror back home, exploring the lands to keep your home safe, the characters you make being a part of this world, having a family with needs, wants, names, and personalities. Knowing that when your caravan comes back from the hardships that you've made progress as a group, you can all help each other out. Are you the daughter of the blacksmith? Bring in patterns so he can make stuff for everybody. Are you the farmer's son? Come back for the new harvest to divvy amongst your friends. Are you all days away from town? Don't worry, check the Moogle mail in order to communicate or even send items and money back home. It would appear on the Game Boy in your hand. It might have been a pain to set up and a bit simplistic, but it's one of the only co-op RPGs I've played where I felt like I was truly working together with my friends. The remaster of this game doesn't have anything I just talked about. Not a single thing. In Crystal Chronicles Remastered, you don't have a caravan with friends, you don't share a town with anybody. You just magically appear in front of someone else's dungeon. You don't get to bring the mirror home, you don't even get a letter from home. The only progression that happens is a choice of stat increasing. In a town, you'd get to make a total of 8 characters, all of which come from a different family that provides a different function for that town. However, you're not getting your friend's progression or that family's stats and offerings, you're only getting stuff for one character. So if you want to play this game through with a group of friends and unlock stuff for everyone, you need to play every level at least 4 times back to back. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm talking about online play, of course. Surely, Crystal Chronicles wouldn't have any issues offline. Oh wait, there's no local co-op. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, the game famous for how much of a pain in setting up its local co-op was, the game where one person literally has to carry around a jar to move, has no modern version of local co-op. I don't even have the option to do anything like that. So when you're watching those trailers for this remaster and you see a caravan of 4 people come home and start dancing, that stuff is literally not in the video game. You don't get to experience any of the caravan stuff online with friends, and it just takes away the entire point of what this game is supposed to be. What you're left with is an extremely subpar dungeon crawler where one person has to hold up a jar the entire time knowing that one day it'll be his turn to take the shiny thing home. Square Enix did try a few things to fix this experience and make it accessible though. For instance, it's crossplay between Switch, PlayStation 4, and mobile devices, although good luck figuring out how to connect to each other without 20 minutes and a guide. Now there are things that can be fixed with modern patching. I still believe that they can integrate local co-op into this game and have it return to the mysterious and fantastic multiplayer game it once was. I think that they could make online shared caravans a thing where people even just play off of one person's file. I thought that's what they were going to be doing since they made a free light version of this game. But it seems like they were trying to work around the original game's limitations instead of remaking it, so everything feels extremely archaic and stiff despite the game's whimsical appearance. Crystal Chronicles Remastered is probably the most burnt I felt by a remaster or remake ever, and it sucks to have to hype this game up for months only to turn to all my friends I was interested in showing this game to and be like, don't get it? It sucks. It's insane to me that in 2020, the best way to play Crystal Chronicles Online is to use an emulator with a screen sharing application with 4 different Game Boy Advance emulators hooked up to it. You can do that. I've literally done it before. And somehow it was a better time than this remaster. But you know what? At least I can buy this for $40 and spend another $40 on DLC. Crystal Chronicles Remastered is easily the most disappointing and worst game of the year. I felt like this was an easy one, guys. The developers seem to have a passion for the game and are patching things up and working on it post-launch, but they really need to add in local co-op or shared caravans. It's just not the same. And I'm sad now. So there we go. My worst and most disappointing video games of the year. My childhood is a lie. Thanks for supporting the channel. It's been a long year. It's 2021 now. I somehow missed the release date of this video by 2 months again. Whoops. Stay-at-home orders have been really hard for everybody, but keep hanging in there. Everything's gonna be all right. And also, I'm gonna keep making content. I love doing it. I love doing it for you guys. And it's just, you know, we're gonna be changing some things up around here in a way that I think is gonna be good for me and everyone who's watching, because, you know, you guys have been growing up. I've been growing up. I'm gonna be 31 in like 3 days. What the f? So join me in just a week or two, and I'm gonna start experimenting for the YouTube algorithm because it hates me. But also, you know, I'll have more fun. Love you guys. Special Patreon shout out to Brandon Howell, Chris Shelton, Christopher Olivia, Donald Dowdy, DX Buster, David Molnar, Eli Sheen Staufenecker, Jacoby Fitzpatrick, Kevin Zanowski, Kieran Arter, Nick Irving, P-Funk, Ryan Talbert, and Zach Porter. Thank you very much for your generous support. And thank you so much for watching. I mentioned this on Twitter in a community post, but long story short, I lost 2 of my important hard drives. I had a lot of sentimental stuff on that. So if you've ever sent me fan art or any kind of Photoshop in the past, please send it to me again at either my email address or on Twitter or something. I would love to have it. Next video is going to be coming out in another week or so stay tuned for that. And I got a lot of surprises for you guys. Thanks to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon and just by subscribing. And I'll catch you guys next time.